Right, welcome everyone. This is now session 2 of Revit Intermediate. So in our first session, I introduced the unit, talked about the assessment task, and we started a practice exercise looking at the ability of Revit to control or manage timelining or phasing. So we're going to continue with that exercise today, and I anticipate that we will, once we finish that exercise, it'll be we'll have some time left over to actually have a look at the starting of the assessment task. As I explained last week, once we start the assessment task, that will basically take us through to the end of the unit. So were there any questions from the first session? Did everyone bring their practice file with them? Good, okay. Now, just before we start, can I just ask a question of the class? Can I get you to actually find the phasing settings dialog? Can you remember where that is in Revit? Just have a quick look now, see if you can locate it. Yeah. All right, it's just a refresher. I'm just asking if you know where it is, if you remember where it was. So Manage tab and Phases. Okay, so we had a quick look at that in our first session. So we identified the fact that in a standard Revit template there are two phases, existing and new construction. Okay. We did have a look at, or did change the graphic override for existing elements, so we did that. We will come back to the this particular dialogue. I guess we will obviously address this when we go through the assessment task initially. Now, what I have up on screen is essentially our starting point for this exercise in our first session. So at the moment, this is a brand new, this is a new file, new building. Now, what if I'm going to essentially send a or take a building back in time and deem it to be existing? What do I do in a Revit project? What's the first thing I would do? Select the entire building. Yes, and then what? Yeah, so if you recall, we're talking about phasing settings, and I guess if we take a step back, in Revit, what can we change the phase of? So there are two areas where we can actually nominate the phase within a project. In a broader sense, where is the phase set? In the properties, but of what? The view. Okay, so the view has phasing settings. Okay, so again, here we're looking at the properties of the view, and at the bottom of at the end of the properties area, we've got the general heading phasing, and we've got phase. Okay, so just be clear that all views in Revit have a phase setting, and it's typically set to new construction. So anything that's added to that view takes on that phase. All right. Now, and of course, the other area or the other aspect of the project we can change the phase of is the building element. So, as I said, when the building element, when you add a wall, or add your walls or doors and windows to your project, they take on the phase of the view. So, if you haven't changed anything, when you select an object like this, you'll see that in the phasing settings of the object, next to phase created, you'll see new construction. Okay? So the phase created of the object is the same as the phase of the view. That's how you start. So, to send our building back in time, what do? Before we create any new views, we essentially have to change all of the building items, all of the elements. We have to change the phase created to a phase that occurs before new construction, to a previous phase. Okay? So in this project there were two phases, the current or future, which is new construction, and the previous, which is existing. So essentially what we do is we change the phase created to existing, which is before new construction. And that essentially takes the building, or sets the building back in time. Okay? And the thing is, to do this, to achieve this completely, we need to make sure that we are selecting the entire building. Okay, so we need to get all objects within the building and then change their phase created to existing. Okay, so that's the starting, that was our starting point last week. All right, so from here we then started creating some duplicate floor plans. So we created one for existing construction, we created one for demolition. So at the end of last session, we had completed the demolition aspect of the project. All right, so that's where we're going to continue today. Now I'll just I'll close this project.
So what about your view, your plan view? What about a demolition 3D view? Are you covering that?
Oh, the thing is, yes, the thing is that this is the exercise that we worked on last week. So this is the stage we got to. Now the thing is that under floor plans, yes, we've got plan demolition, plan existing. Now under 3D views, I could duplicate this, and I could call this 3D demolition.
Oh, okay.
So so that's 3D demolition.
Yeah.
Now, if I wanted to create a 3D existing, duplicate it again, and rename this. Okay, so this is they're both identical at the moment, but in the 3D existing, I would change this to the existing view to match the existing floor plan.
So you change the phasing there.
Yeah, so we're talking about changing the phase of the view and the phase filter. Okay, so typically the phase of the view needs to go back to existing. Okay, so it all looks normal now, and we can leave the phase filter at show all, but really as we see when we create the next view for our completed build, we actually change the filter to show complete. It doesn't change the appearance of the view, but essentially that is the existing building. Okay, so that's existing. That's the demolition view. Okay, so this is all done with the duplication of views, and it's all managed by changing the phase of the view and or the phase filter. And the thing is that when you are phasing a project like this, you can create different elevations for phasing. You can essentially duplicate any of these views and change the phase and the phase filter to display what you want. You can even change the phase filter within a schedule, door and window schedule. So a lot of aspects of the project can have their phase or phase filter changed. Okay, so we'll continue on. Now, what I'll get you to do is go back to the plan demolition view. Now, I'm presuming that everyone has completed to this stage from the first session, and your building looks like this. And when I mean it looks like this, the walls are half-tone, they're not solid filled, and we've got the demolished items appearing in red dash. Okay, so we're going to make a copy now of the plan demolition, duplicate view, and we're going to call this one plan complete. Okay, so plan complete. Now, the plan complete now is has been created for the purpose of now adding new construction and displaying the entire build, both the existing and new construction. And the intention is that all of the construction, all of the building will look the same. So you won't be able to tell what's new and what's old. Okay, because we're going to apply a filter that makes it all look the same. So what we need to do to this view is essentially change the phase filter, this one here, to show complete. So it's a filter named show complete. So what that essentially does is that it makes everything look normal, and it will hide anything that's demolished. Okay, so anything that's demolished will be hidden. So this is where we start rebuilding. All right, now what you'll need to do is, if you haven't already, you'll need to log in to Learn, go to the practice exercises area here, and you'll need to just open up the PDF here called Phasing principles exercise complete. So you'll see here, this is what we're about to, or this is what we're going to use to actually rebuild or add an extension and just change internally the existing building. Okay, so we're actually going to create this extension. We're going to add a wall through here, and we're going to add a wall through here. I'm not going to say, I shouldn't say extend, because we're not extending, we're adding a new section of wall. Okay, that's important. So we'll start by drawing the extension using the same wall type as this. So without knowing what that wall type is, what's the quickest way of begin the drawing of it, or drawing new walls? Create similar. Yeah, so create similar. So if we select an existing wall and use create similar up here, or the shortcut is CS, you'll just need to make sure that it's set to the correct height, ceiling, location line, etc. And then I would suggest starting here, moving out. Again, don't worry about the size of it just yet. Okay, just add those 3 walls, and we'll need to obviously adjust the size, and we'll also need to just sort out the positioning of this wall here so that it lines up with this wall here. Okay, so just draw those 3 walls in for the moment. Now, what would be the quickest way to move this wall up so it lines up with this wall? The align tool, yes. So we select this as our reference and select this one to align to it. Now, once you've done that, I'll get you to just add a couple of quick dimensions. Okay, and the distance here, the length here, needs to be 3.8 metres. Okay. Now, once you've done that, I guess if you can just zoom into this area here. Okay. So notice how my new wall is slightly overlapping the existing wall here. Okay. Now we have to obviously address that. Now this does sometimes happen where the existing will overlap with the new. And the way to resolve this is to select the new wall with its drag bubble, drag it back to about here. Okay, purposely create a gap. Okay. Now, I don't know if you recall in the first session where we used the split with gap tool, and it at the end of the wall it automatically put the little T symbol Does anyone recall what that means? Disallow join. Yes, disallow join. Now, in this situation, we have to do the same thing with the end of this wall. We have to prevent it from joining other walls. So the way we do that is we put our pointer on the bubble here and we right mouse. And we go down here to disallow join. All right, so this is how we do it manually. Okay, see the T symbol there? Okay. So if you were to click on the T symbol, it would reverse that and take it back to the default, which is allow join. Okay. So with the T symbol there, it means that the wall is disallowed or prevented from joining. Now, we need to bring the end of this wall back to meet the end of this wall. And the best way to do that is to use the align tool. If you drag it back, there's a chance that it will actually automatically rejoin. Okay, so we've got the two walls there now. They're butting up against one another, but they're not joining. Okay, so we're going to add a wall, a new wall from the end of this one up to this one here. And we're going to add a new wall section from the end of this wall over to the exterior wall on the left. So again, we select the existing wall, do a create similar, and then all being well, if you actually connect to this one and draw upwards, it should work as expected. Okay, and the same with this one. So again, select the wall, create similar, and then connect, snap to the end of this wall, and then draw to the left and connect here. Okay, now you'll notice with this one, we have the overlapping situation as well. Okay, so these two walls have overlapped. So again, with the new wall that we've added, it's a matter of left clicking and dragging, right clicking, disallow join, align, and bring it back. So the thing is that if you are obviously adding a new section of wall here, please don't be tempted to actually extend this wall, okay, because remember this is an existing wall. If we extend it, it's going to defeat the purpose. So this needs to stay at the same length, needs to be unchanged, and then you add a new section here. So this is existing and this is new. Now, to eliminate the join between the two walls, we can actually do that with the join tool up here, join geometry, on the modified tab. So we select the new wall and then we select the existing wall, and it just removes that join line. Now we can do the same thing with this wall and this wall. Now the only thing is we have the floor that's running through here. So this is the existing floor, but we've now added an extension to the building, so therefore what do we have to do with regard to the floor? We've got to add a new section of floor, don't we? Yeah. So once you've put your walls in, we still have to put in some additional doors and windows. But before we do that, we'll actually just add in a new section of floor. So again, create similar, untick extend to core, make sure it's generic, or it will be generic 150 because we've done a create similar, and then just select the perimeter of the 3 new walls and you'll then have to swap to this option here, which is pick lines, to add the 4th sketch line along the edge of the existing floor. Okay, and once you've done that, you'll need to then tidy or clean up this this join here, these 2 sketch lines. Okay, once you've done that, you can then click to finish, and you've now got your new separate section of floor. Okay, now the new floor, the 2 floors will always remain separate, but you can use the join tool to join them together to eliminate the join line. And you'll use the join tool again to join the existing wall here with the new wall here. Okay, so that eliminates that join line through the wall there. Okay, now we're about to put our new doors and windows in, but I just wanted to draw your attention to something that you may come across when you're adding doors and possibly windows. Now what I've done here is I've actually done an unjoined geometry. So if you recall that when you add the new section of wall initially, you'll get a join line through here. Now if we use the join geometry tool, it removes the join line and the wall appears to be continuous. Now if you have to add a door right there and you haven't actually joined this with this, what happens is this. See, it hasn't actually correctly made the opening for the new door here. So it's okay on this side, but it's actually the wall here is still continuing through. Okay, so if that ever happens, you'll need to delete the door, join the walls, and then when you add the door back in, it will happen as it should. Okay, so I'll get you just to place those few doors in, and again all the doors are the same, so if you actually select an existing one and do a create similar, And when you put your doors in, just do a create similar on one of the windows. And add the remaining windows in. Now, I didn't really want the tags, so I'll just delete those. Okay, we'll just make sure that these new windows are all at the correct head height, in other words 2100. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is, can you close any hidden views? So up here, just close any hidden views, so make sure there's no red cross up here. So you're looking at the plan complete view. I'd like you to open up the plan demolition view, and I'd like you to go to the view tab and Windows panel and click tile. Okay, so just tile the two views side by side. And just zoom and position the two floor plans like so. Okay, now yeah, I want to draw your attention to these windows here. See these windows here, these new ones here, and also the new door here. Now that we've added this door and these windows, the demolition plan has changed somewhat. Now, remember, this is an existing wall, and we've added two windows to it. So to add the windows, what do you have to do to the wall? Knock a hole in it. So that is classified as demolition. Yeah, okay. So creating the opening in the existing wall is classified as demolition. Therefore, the program automatically tags the openings here as demolished. And the same goes with the door here that we've added. Okay, to add that door to an existing wall, it means that we have to knock out an opening. So demolition is required. Okay. So in the course of rebuilding, your demolition plan will update automatically, depending on what you're doing. Okay. All right. So just thought I'd draw that to your attention. So you can see it's the software very, very good. It's all quite automatic. As long as you know what you're doing, it will give you the correct results. Okay. Ready to tackle the roof? Yep. So at the moment, if we have a look at a 3D view, that's what we've got so far. So the thing is, in our 3D view, if we change to so that we can match our 3D view to our complete floor plan view, what do we have to do? No, yes, we have to rebuild the roof, but to make our 3D view match our floor plan view at this stage, what do we have to do? What setting do we have to change? Sorry? Yeah, so phase filter. So what did we change the phase filter to in the complete floor plan? Show complete. So in the 3D view, if we set the same filter, okay, that's what we currently have as far as our extension renovation is concerned. So that's the completed. It's not. I know it's not complete, but that is the complete view. That's as far as we've got. I'll turn off shading. Now we have to. The next thing, obviously, we have to do is tackle the roof. So we have to add another section of roof on. So where do we do that? So what view do we need to go to actually modify the roof or add another piece of roof? It's not a trick question. No, we go to ceiling level floor plan, okay, where we created the roof in the first place. Now, in the ceiling level floor plan, you'll see that under the properties of the view, we've got phase filter set to show all, and we've got phase new construction. So what I suggest here is just quickly change the phase filter to show complete. Okay, and I guess if you're having to work in a view like a ceiling view to do some additional work, it's suggested that you actually change the phase filter to show complete. This is really only a temporary view just to work in. It's not a view that we're going to display on a sheet. So we have to add a new section of roof around here. Now it has to match this one in both type and location and height, which is eave overhang. Okay, so what do we do? Create similar. Okay, so same roof type, same overhang. We just need to make sure that we tick extend to wall core. That's important, because if you don't do that, the new roof is not going to be the same height as the existing roof, and it has to be exactly the same height. So what we do is, what we did with the floor, is that we add our initial 3 sketch lines along this wall, and this wall. Okay, and we're going to add. We have to close the sketch lines. It has to be a closed shape. So where do you think we might put the 4th sketch line? Along here is correct. Okay, but we don't use pick walls. We use pick lines. Okay. Now, as we did with the floor, we need to use our trim extender corner and just tidy up this join here. Now, the initial 3 sketch lines, you'll need to select, and you can control click the 3 of them, and in the properties of those 3 sketch lines, change the slope or the pitch to 22.5 to match the main roof. So this, and this 22.5. Now I've just noticed that this this sketch line down here is overshooting this one here, so I just need to use the trim extender corner just to tidy that up. Okay. Now the 4th sketch line, what do you think we need to do to that one? Is it going to have a pitch? No. So how do we untick define slope? Now once you've done that, you can generate the roof and it will look like that. Okay. Now if we go to a 3D view, there's our new section of roof there. Okay. Now again, the important aspect of this is that this roof is exactly the same height as this roof. So the edge of the roof should be identical in height. Has anyone done any roof modification like this before? Essentially what we are doing, the principle of creating sub-roofs is required when you are developing complex roofs. Okay. In this case it's required because we need to distinguish between the existing and the new construction. So the 2 roofs need to be separate. Now it is possible to join this roof with this roof, which is what we're about to do next. Now Revit, on its Modified tab, has a tool on the geometry panel called Join Unjoin Roof up here. Okay, so the idea is that we actually select an edge line on this smaller part of the roof first, and then select the plane of the existing roof, and the 2 will join. Now there will be a join line along this side which we will address a little bit later. All right. Okay, so we've now added the new section of roof, but if I select either of those roofs and come down and do an isolate category, and then just look underneath, so you can see that's the existing, that's the new. So the thing is that where the new joins the existing, technically we actually need to remove part of the existing roof so that the new roof joins correctly with it. Does that make sense? So that's this part underneath here. Okay, so to do that, to actually take a piece out of the existing roof, we need to go back to the ceiling level floor plan. So this is the existing, this is the new. Now to actually take a piece out of the roof, we go back to the architecture tab and we use this tool here called opening or vertical opening. It can be used for a lot of things, yeah. So it's actually a very useful tool for roof modification. You know, if you have to cut a piece off, cut a little bit off the roof to modify it, it's just another tool that you can use. So vertical opening. So here it cuts a vertical opening through a roof, a floor or a ceiling. Okay, so select the tool, select the roof, the existing roof, and then using your sketch tools, and you can use pick lines and pick along the valley line here and this line here. And use the drawer or the line tool up here to connect the two and form a triangle. Okay, so we draw in a triangle for the roof cut. Okay, now when you, so again, we have to apply to the same rules with sketching, so it has to be a closed shape, no gaps, no overlaps, and then click the green tick to finish, and that will remove that part of the roof. So in our 3D view, again, if I isolate the roof, you'll see that that's now looking better. Now, just lastly, we've cut this section of roof out, but we really need to keep it so that we can show or tag it for demolition. Okay, so it appears on our demolition plan. So I guess the thing is you have to make the decision as to whether you want to recreate it as a little triangular piece and then demolish it so it shows up on your demolition plan, or do you simply just go to your demolition plan and draw in some red dashed lines to indicate that that section of roof needs to be removed? Okay, so it depends on how far you want to take it. I can show you how to recreate that little piece of roof and demolish it if you want me to.
So at the moment, very narrow.
So in our demo,
Got a hole there. It's removed it like a window.
Yeah, it's actually taken it out completely. Ideally in this scenario, we actually want to sort of cut the roof, but leave the piece there.
As a demolition.
Yeah, and then demolish it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Can't you change it? That section's no, you can't change that section's base.
No. No, the thing is, if we go back to the existing floor plan, we've got a chunk of roof missing. Okay, so it doesn't look complete. So to make it look complete, we've got to put that little section back in again. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, just for an exercise, we'll do it. So again, you'll need to go back to the ceiling level floor plan and put in a little triangular piece of roof. So to do that, again, select either the existing or the new roof and do a create similar. Make sure the overhang is set to 760 and you tick extend to wall core. Okay, now what you do is you just approach this wall here, see the wall I'm highlighting, to add your first sketch line. Now it's this sketch line that's going to determine the position and the pitch of this section of roof. Okay, so just put in one sketch line and change it to 22.5. Now, using your pick lines tool, pick lines, come over here on the options bar and untick define slope and pick this line here to add a sketch line and this line here to add a sketch line. Okay, so sketch line, no slope. Use your trim extender corner to form a triangle. Okay, so that's what you need to end up with. Okay, so this line here is at 22.5. These two lines here, no slope. Okay, finish. Now, if we go to a 3D view, if you select the this new section of roof here and do a temporary hide, so shortcut HH, you'll be able to see the that little section we've just put in there. So it should fit in and match exactly. Now, once it's in, okay, you'll need to select it and just go down to its phasing settings. Now, phase created, what does that need to be? Existing, okay, because it's part of the existing roof. We're going to remove it. So how do we remove it or demolish it? Hit it with your hammer. But while we're here in phasing, phase demolished, we can actually demolish it right here by setting this to what? Phase demolished. Yeah, so it's going to be demolished in the current or future phase. And it disappears. Okay? So it disappears as expected because in the current view, we have the, if I clear that selection, in the current view, the phase filter is set to show complete. So that means that we are hiding any objects that have been tagged for demolition and have been demolished. Okay, so we've created this little triangular piece of roof. We've taken it back in time to existing. We've then hit it with a hammer and we've demolished it, or changed its phase demolished to new construction. Okay, so if we come back to plan existing, that little section of roof is back in. It's there now. If we go to plan demolition, and we show the roof in this view, okay, so there's the roof. There's the roof section showing up. You can faintly see the red dashed line running along the eave there, up the side down here. Okay, and in our plan complete, if we now turn the roof on, there's our new section, there's our existing. So what we'll need to do is override the line pattern of the new roof and make it look like the existing. Okay, so again, override graphics by element, change the projection line pattern to centre. Okay, and having done that, you can then join this part of the roof, join the new roof with the existing. Now, when I say join, I mean use the join tool here, join geometry. Okay, we've already used join roof, but we now use join geometry. And what that does is removes the line through here, this one through here. So the roof looks completely integrated. Okay, now just to finish off this exercise, so we've now got the completed plan, which, of course, if we were going to develop this further, we would add dimensions, text, leader notes, and bathroom fittings and fixtures to develop the whole plan basically. So I guess the thing is that with the establishment of a project for phasing, I guess initially or primarily we have the 3 floor plans. Plan demolition looks like that, and to the demolition plan you'd obviously add some notes and possibly a north symbol. The existing plan, we don't generally use the existing view as part of our documentation. I guess it's there really so that we can go back and just refer to it and make sure that whatever changes we've made to the project don't impact on the existing building. In other words, the existing building should be complete in its own right. There should be nothing missing once we do our demolition and so forth. And with regard to the little section of roof we put back in, I guess just to finish this off, we would perhaps override by element and just change the pattern to centre. And what we could also do is join this with the existing, and the idea is that that's exactly where we started. Okay, so it's complete as it was in the past. And of course, as I explained earlier, you can set up your 3D views if you wish. So this one is the demolition, which is set to show previous and demo. So see how it's now showing the roof there, little section of roof that we cut out. The existing, and we could create a third one, of course, which is the complete. And the only change we make to the complete is we change the filter to show complete. And it might be that perhaps you'll create a nice perspective view to add to your cover sheet. So, and even perspective views can be phased. So show complete new construction. So there you have it. Now, of course, the other thing that you can do of course, is we haven't talked about fascias and gutters in this. So the thing is that now that you've got the project fully phased, you've got your separate roof sections or roof section for the new. You can now begin to add fascias and gutters, and you can then obviously divide them up into existing and new construction, and that will happen automatically depending on which view you place them in. So if we actually placed fascias and gutters in this view here, with the phase set to existing, the fascias and gutters will take on that phase as their phase created, and obviously become part of the existing building, including this section across here. So when we add the fascias and gutters, the fascia and gutter along this section here will obviously automatically be separate from the rest. And therefore, once we've added them, what do we do with them? We'll be demolishing them. So the section of fascia and gutter that runs across the roof edge here, once we put it on, we'll immediately demolish it. So you can understand how we sort of tackle things like fascias and gutters. And of course, anything else that we would add to the building that is deemed existing or new. All right. So, I mean, if you want to sort of continue with this in your own time, you can sort of have a look at adding the fascias and gutters, but we're not going to do that in class. All right. So, unless there's any questions, we'll move on. So, I'm going to get you to save this particular exercise and close it. You don't need to keep it if you don't want to. If you want to keep it and refer back to it at any stage, just for an insight into what we're about to do in the assessment task, then keep it as a reference. All right, so okay, so all right, so as I said, now that we've completed this exercise, we're going to move on to the assessment task. Now, just before we do, can I get you to go back to Portal Services? Okay, so if you haven't, you probably have already logged in to Portal Services for Learn. I'd like you to go back to Portal Services and I'd like you to click Office 365. Now, with the assessment task, for students in the classroom, because of the nature of the assessment task and because of the file size and the files required for the project, it's going to be of benefit if you have an external storage device that you have in classroom to save or to actually use as a working drive for this assessment. I would also like you to do a backup after every session, and I guess the quickest and most convenient backup medium for you would be through Office 365 and OneDrive, so up to the cloud, for instance. So what I'd like you to do is just open up OneDrive, and you may already be doing this for other subjects. What I'd like you to do is create a new folder and call it Revit Intermediate. When you've done that, can you just go into or open up the Revit Intermediate folder, just go inside the folder and just create a new folder underneath Revit Intermediate and call it Assessment Task. No, just call it, just Assessment Task is fine. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the thing is that under Assessment Task, you will upload your working file, your Revit file, as a backup after every session, okay, just in case something goes wrong. So that way you'll only be essentially maybe one session behind. I'm going to take you back to Learn shortly, and we're going to open up the procedure document for the assessment task. And initially, you're going to set up a folder set on a local drive. And I guess the thing is, probably the best idea would be to actually upload the entire folder set, including all the files inside, up to OneDrive at the end of each session. So it's up to you whether you do the whole folder set or you just do the Revit file itself. Okay, the Revit file is the important one. So again, as with your other units, I guess the requirement to back up is one of the performance criteria that we have to tick you off to sort of to observe you doing it. So therefore, OneDrive is the obvious choice here for backup. So it is important that you do keep a second copy of your project. Okay, we'll come back to this. Now, coming back to Learn, you'll find the assessment task here in part 1. Okay, the assessment task, I guess, is divided into 2 parts. The first part really is the modelling or assembly, and the second part is the documentation. Okay, so here we have the assessment document, and we've also got the project startup file. Now, before you download the project startup file, just open up the assessment document. Now, the assessment document is designed to get you started. It's not a fully written, not a full document step by step. Okay, it's just designed to get you started. It takes you through the initial phasing of the project, and I guess just the initial parts where you phase the project, you demolish, and you add your new construction. So it's not going to take you much beyond that. Okay, so we've got a brief here, and we've got some prerequisites. And the prerequisites basically address the file storage and security, talking about local copies and cloud-based storage. Now, initially, what I'll get you to do is in section 2, begin creating a folder structure for the project. So I'll get you to do that now. So on your external storage drive, just begin setting up these folders. So create the folders exactly as they are here. Okay. Now, as I said in our last session, you will be starting with a Revit file, and you will be given the existing building, so you don't have to draw that. Now, the assessment task itself will start today and will run through to the end of this unit. And I believe from memory, I'd have to go back and check the program, but this assessment task is due at the end of November. Now, I guess the thing is that you'll start with this starting file. You'll actually then rename it before you begin work in it. It's important that you do adhere to the naming conventions. So it's important that the project file is named as per the project brief. And again, it's important that you save regularly and then produce regular backups. And only work in the one Revit file. Okay, don't create copies of it and work with copies. Just work within the same file. Okay, so we've got our main folder here, and then underneath that we've got our subfolders. Now, within the main folder, this one here, that's where you're going to download and place the starting file. And as I say, once you've downloaded it, just rename it before you actually open it in Revit. Then you'll open Revit, you'll start Revit. In the start screen, click Open. When the project opens, you'll immediately do a File Save As project. Under Options, you'll restrict the number of backups to 2. Now, we have done that before, haven't we? Yeah, okay. So what that means is that normally when you're working in a Revit project and you save, it creates a backup, and the backup is named, or has the backup has the number 0001. As you keep saving, you'll create backups, and by default it actually holds 20 backup files. We're going to restrict that to 2. All right, so and again, it's important that you only work in the primary file and not a backup. Okay, so quite clear on that. So any file that contains a number like 0006 is a backup file and should not be opened unless there is a problem with the primary file. Okay, if the primary file is corrupt, you can go to the most recent backup, open it and rename it and save it. Okay, but that's the only reason you would open up a backup file. So I'm going back to Learn now. I'm going to click on the Download Start Project. Now the thing is that I have recently updated this project file in the last few days, and the current version is version 5. Okay, so if you're not working with version 5, you're not working with the most current version of it. Okay, so it needs to have v5 in it, in the file name.
So, what V5 after is? Yeah, aren't you supposed to rename it? Yes. So you got to put V5 after.
Yeah, no, the thing is that the starting file, the version of the starting file is version 5. Okay, so you just have to make sure that that is the, it's just that some students may have downloaded it last week, perhaps, or before the holidays. And I've changed it in the last few days, and this is the current version. So as long as it has v5 in it as a starting file, you've got the correct version. Yes, you are going to rename it, that's fine. Okay, so from Revit, open Okay, now it will go through an upgrade process because it was produced in 2017, Revit 2017. Okay, and we're going to do a File Save As project. Now the options that I mentioned is here. Okay, so options is here. So File, Save As, Options, and we're going to now change the number of backups to 2. Okay, now be aware that this is local backups, so this is backing up to the same location as the Revit project file. Okay, it still means that you are still required to physically copy the main project file up to OneDrive at the end of each session. Okay. Now, if you were to do a save now, if you click Save Now, and you go back out to your project folder, you'll see that there's the primary file, and I've now got 2 backups, 0001 and 0002. Okay, now at any time during my Revit sessions when I do backups, I'll only ever see 2 of them. So they'll go to, once I do another save, it'll be 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, okay? Okay, so just take a moment, I guess, to have a look at what you're starting with. Open up a 3D view. Okay, that's our existing building. That's what we're working with. So we're going to treat this building exactly the way that we did in the practice exercise. Okay, so the thing is that your initial floor plans are all set, or your levels are set, including a ground line or ground level. And of course we are, once we change the phase created of this building, we're then going to create further floor plans and then work towards the demolition. Okay, any questions at this stage? Okay. All right. All right, so we get to part 4, which is project setup for phasing, and really just in the steps through here, we're just sort of going back over what we essentially did in the practice exercise. So we're sort of just understanding the initial phase conditions and the fact that the view has a phase assigned, and of course anything that's added to that view takes on that phase as the phase created. Now, if we go to 4.2 here, change the phase of existing building model elements. Okay, so as we did in the practice, we're going to switch to a 3D view, and we're going to select the entire building and change all of the building elements to existing. Take this building back in time. Now, I guess the thing is that you'll soon discover that the phase created is greyed out. Okay, so if I put a window around that whole lot, the other thing you discover is most of this existing building is pinned. Okay, because invariably when we're working with this building, the worst thing that can happen is that the roof gets moved, or parts of the roof. So it's all pinned for safety. Now, phase created is currently greyed out, and that's because there are some aspects of the building that you cannot change the phase created of. Okay, not everything can be changed. So I guess normally if you were doing this by yourself, you'd have to sort of work out what those things were that can't be changed. and you'd have to then filter them out, okay? Because it's basically things like openings in walls, roof cutouts, things like that, beam systems that you simply just can't change the phase of. And also there are elements like rafters, ceiling joists and things like that that are part of a beam system that can't be changed initially. They can be changed afterwards, but not initially. So it gets a little bit fiddly. Now, what I've done is I've worked out all of the items that you'll need to filter out without you going through the process of doing this yourself. So in the procedure document, okay, you'll need to use a filter, and I've highlighted the items you'll need to untick for you to actually proceed and to be able to change the majority of the building elements to existing. Okay, so just have this open, refer to this. Your filter is up here. Make sure that you select the whole building. Click the filter and just run down and untick the items that I've listed here. So there's a wall opening, there's a roof opening cut, and there's also this structural framing joist, which there are 80 of.
We don't normally put any of that in any of our models, do we?
No. The thing is that, I mean, you can see, I mean, the building is translucent at the moment. You can sort of see through the roof itself. You can see that it contains all of its trusses, almost a complete roof system, as well as floor joists and a floor, timber floor. So, wall opening, roof opening cut, and structural framing joist. Okay, so if we apply that, and OK, that now allows us to change the phase created of the remaining to existing. Okay. So yes, if you shade the building now, it will all go the one colour. If we go back to our floor plan view, FFL, then as expected, our walls are now solid black. Now, if we go back to our assessment document, okay, so notice that the line style of the building elements are displayed as solid black rather than black lines because of the phase and phase filter settings in the view properties. Okay, because this is a renovation project, it requires a plan view for demolition and for new construction. So after you create the views, you modify their view properties to make each view phase specific. So in part 4.3, what we do initially is that we create a plan view for the existing and a plan view for the demolition. So again, it's important that you create these views with exactly the same name that's listed here. By duplicating the FFL. Okay, and essentially we just create a second copy of FFL, and this one becomes plan demo. Now if we go back to plan existing, and again we're following the same steps as we did in the exercise. What did we do in the plan existing? What change did we make to the view to make it look normal? So to make this look normal again, what has to equal what? So the phase created has to be the same as the phase of the view. That way, all of the building will appear as normal. In other words, no override is applied. So we change the phase of the view here from new construction to existing. Okay, and I'll just turn off my thick lines. And there it looks, it's back to the way it looked when it was first built. The demolition plan, however, looks like this still. And of course, as in the exercise, we are going to change the appearance of the walls. In the demolition plan, we're going to make them half-tone, and we're going to, they're not going to be solid. So that's covered or outlined in part 4.4. Okay, change cut patterns for existing objects. Okay, so we're going to do this from the phasing panel, graphic overrides. We're going to click on the little black square here. We're going to remove the tick from visible, click OK, and we're going to tick halftone against the existing status here. Okay, so manage, phases, graphic overrides, click on this square here, untick visible, tick halftone, and OK. All right, so if we we go back here, so we've covered 4.4.4, so we're down to 4.4.6. So next you begin demolition. So there are two ways to demolish an element, which we've seen in the practice. Probably the quickest way is just to use the demolish tool, which looks like that. Now before you actually start any demolition, in 5.1, can you change the phase filter of the plan demo view to show previous and demo, just so that just to ensure that everything displays correctly. Now the other thing you'll need to do is just make sure that when you, because we're actually going to, the next thing we're going to do is actually add some reference planes to assist us in establishing the correct cut locations for walls. So we need to make sure that the that reference planes are visible initially in our demolition floor plan. Okay, so that's done through visibility graphics, okay, and you'll find reference planes, the category under or in annotation. So firstly, we're in the plan demo, so we changed the phase filter to show previous and demo. We then go to the View tab, select Visibility Graphics, Annotation Categories, and then down to Reference Planes, this one here. So just place a tick there next to Reference Planes. That way when you begin to draw them, you won't get an error message. They'll actually show up as you draw them. Now, okay, so in 5.4, referring to the walls that display as dashed lines in the demolition plan, select the interior walls one at a time. Some interior walls, including an exterior wall, will have to be divided or split because only part of the wall length is to be removed. So use the Split with Gap tool on the Modify panel. Note also that part of the exterior west wall is to be demolished. Again, use the Split with Gap tool to achieve this. So if we have a look at the plan here, now again, as I said in the practice exercise, this is the critical part. Okay, this is the part that you have to get right. All right, otherwise it will impact on the rest of the project. Now, there are 3 wall splits required. Okay, now one of them runs through just above this toilet wall here, just runs through here. Okay, and the exact measurement is 3474. So as measured from here. All right, so 3474 for that one. Split through there. You don't need to put a split through here because that will occur automatically. So no split here, split up here. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is a split through the wall here. And it's exactly 920 from the inside wall face here to the split through here. Okay, so there's a little tiny section of wall there that will be demolished. So when you actually come to demolish it, you actually click the wall there, which takes the door as well. Okay, so a little bit of wall there. So 920. Now the third split is up here, it's through here. So that's exactly 1216 from this inside wall face here to here. So 1216. So you're going to have to draw in 3 separate reference planes, add 3 split with gaps close to the reference plane, put your dimension from the reference plane to the adjoining wall, and then go from there. Okay. Now we're not going to have a lot. We don't have much more time today. We only got sort of just over 5 minutes, so we can probably at least get the reference planes in and the dimensions on them. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in nice and close, and I'm going to put my reference plane through here. So again, Architecture tab, Reference Plane, just draw it up here, just through here. And at the same time, while you're here, just go up to Align Dimension and run your dimension from there to the inside wall here. Okay, now if you then, so once you've added the dimension, just hit the Escape key, select the reference plane, and then update the dimension and put in 3474. Okay, so that's now exact. And now you might also just select the reference plane and initially just pin it. Okay, so it's in position, it can't move. Okay, the second reference plane, as I say, will go up through here. Okay, this one here. And again, dimension from here to the inside wall face here. Okay, so that one is 920. And just once you put the dimension on, just select the reference plane and pin it. Okay, and just lastly, we'll move up to into this section here. Add a reference plane through here. Add your dimension. And this one is 1216, and then pin that in place. Okay, so there's your three. Okay, so what we do from here is that we go back to modify, split with gap, and here again zoom in nice and close. Don't try and do this out here like this. Okay, get in really close. Okay, put your gap through there, just above the reference plane, and then immediately unlock it. See the padlock here? Okay. While you're in the split with gap tool, you may as well do them all. Okay, just put the gap near the reference plane and immediately unlock it. Okay, so once you've done your three gaps, clear that command. So now that you've got your gap and it's unlocked, you can simply then use your align tool to align the end of each wall with the reference plane. Okay. And what I would suggest you do from here, we're about to finish the session, but what I would suggest you do from here, obviously the demolition now is quite straightforward. Just again, just note that when you are demolishing a wall that contains windows or doors, you only need to select the wall. Okay, it will automatically take the windows and doors that are within it. Okay, and again with this one here, okay, this one here, you need to select a little bit of wall there. See how that's highlighting? Okay, that's what you demolish, and it takes the door with it. Same with this one. So you click the wall, which automatically takes the door. And once you've demolished those 3 sections of walls, you can quite safely just select, unpin, and delete the reference planes. Okay. All right, and I guess from here it's just a matter of just a case of referring to this plan here, and obviously just demolishing the other walls, doors, and windows if required. Don't forget there's a frame here that needs to be demolished, so you actually select on the little bit of frame here. And there's also a downpipe here, okay, a downpipe that needs to be demolished here. All right, so we'll pick this up in our next session. So once we've completed the demolition, we'll then have a look at starting the rebuild. So as I say, save your files locally, and then once they're saved locally, can you upload them to OneDrive, please? Or upload the Revit file to OneDrive as a backup. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you in session 3. Thank you.